On the front there, the Banesto rider is Jose Maria Gimenez. The Kelme rider is Ochoa, the man who won that great stage up to Otakam and led the King of the Mountains competition. He's currently in second place. And Massimiliano Lelli is 124 for Cofidis. And tucked on at the back, the Mapei rider there is Daniele Nardello. But the man who leads the King of the Mountains competition, Phil, he's at the moment around about 1.5 minutes behind this group on the road, trying to pull himself up. And in fact, he's probably now only around about 400 meters behind them.
I think so, because that's the kilometer board for him as well. He's veritably sprinting up the climb here as the Union Jack flies above his head. I don't think he's going to get on time with them, but he'll get 5th place on the climb. That's good points. And he will hope that his teammate Javier Ochoa can take out the maximum points at the top. Further back down the climb, this is now the select group of 9 riders containing Lance Armstrong, as Pascal Hervé sets the pace for Richard Virenque. On the left is Jan Ullrich, Escartín, Pantani and Morrow are other riders in this breakaway.
Well, you know, looking at those time gaps there, Phil, 56 seconds to Botero, then just inside 2 minutes to the Armstrong-Ulrich group. I can see this whole bike race coming together on the next descent before we come to the final slopes up here to Courchevel. These are the 4 leaders, and they're now within 500 meters of the summit of the Col de la Madeleine.
Now, Will Ochoa, number 26, a dive for the best points here because he needs to take them, not just for his own progress in the mountains, but to defend the team, his teammate Santiago Botero, who leads in the King of the Mountains, gathering a little bit of speed up here now as he plans his assault. They'll wait till the last minute.
Well, he will certainly accelerate away. He's second overall in the King of the Mountains competition, a competition which at the moment is being completely dominated by the Spanish Kelme squad. We're not too far away from the summit now, Phil, and they will then be faced with a 30-kilometer descent before the summit, before the slopes of the final climb of the day. 2,000
meters, but 1,995 right now as the black clouds are hovered above. They don't look too good over to the right, but shortly we should see the sun come back as they dive down to the valleys below. Alain Richard, because he has a tremendous number of supporters on the climb, but he's not in this group, I'm afraid, as Ochoa is waiting as long as possible, following the wheel of Gimenez, the Spanish champion there, and Nardello is the rider behind, and Lelli. Now the sprint, I think they're getting a bit twitchy here. Ochoa looks as though he's got it under control, but if they can hold it a bit longer, they might have Botero along here as well, but they won't do it. Now there's the finish line.
Well, there's the finish line there inside 200 meters now. Jose Maria Gimenez, the Banesto rider on the front, looks to me, Phil, as if he's in a great day today, but certainly as they get closer to the line, the acceleration actually comes from Lelli first.
Yeah, Lelli goes first, Ochoa takes his wheel, and Ochoa I don't think is going to have the legs to beat Lelli today, so it's Lelli, Ochoa, Gimenez, Nardello over the top.
But coming up like a bullet up this mountain behind them is the King of the Mountains, and that is Santiago Botero. He's 5th place on the road at the moment, and here he is right now. He has an advantage of around about 1 minute on the Armstrong, Ulrich and Virenque group, who are a little further down the slopes, but he certainly has made the unbelievable ascent of this climb, Phil, and I should think very rapidly he will make the junction on the descent.
I think you are absolutely right, Paul. He's coming over the top like a steam locomotive here. One thing's for sure now, he's writing out Richard Virenque as a 6-time winner of the King of the Mountains, at least for this year, because the Kelme boys have been superb in the mountains as a team. They've brought their best men to a tour that certainly suits them. And here he comes over the top in 5th place and around about 48 seconds over the top.
48 seconds, you see him just putting a raincoat on there for the descent, because the chill factor on the descent will take temperatures down to below freezing. But this is the group next on the road there. You can see Hervé has really done an incredible job there. He's pulling the group of Armstrong, Ulrich and Virenque very close to Botero, and certainly I think we'll see the full group come together, Phil, before the climb of Courchevel.
Here comes Richard Virenque now as his teammate moves over, just checking is anybody going to bother. The answer is no, because the King of the Mountains has already gone over the top, and so Richard Virenque gets the 6th place, and Lance Armstrong over the top and can now tick another mountain off in the Tour de France, and he hasn't been challenged yet.
Well, Marco Pantani is in that group as well, so all of the major contenders right there, and not too far behind him, Phil, actually a couple of his teammates.
So we're on our way down the Col de la Madeleine now. It's a long descent down to the valleys below, and still it is being led by 4 riders who won't worry Lance Armstrong too much today. Poor old Ellie there is having trouble getting on now. Watch out, watch the Pirate on the left. He's about to go, I think, as he gathers speed on the far side. He's almost riding the track here as he gathers speed up on the banking. and then he starts to accelerate, but he's got some company this time. They're watching him.
That's Kevin Livingston accelerating there. There was a little tentative there coming from Marco Pantani, I think, just to feel the waters there. And Livingston came up alongside to say, well, don't worry, Lance is better than I am, and I'm up alongside you right now. Heras and Virenque as well responded to that early attack there by Pantani, and he's up into third place. And Armstrong is not too far behind on the wheel of Tyler Hamilton.
Well, that was a good spot there by Hamilton as he came up behind Pantani. And you see now we've also got the split here, as Armstrong is trying to bridge the gap, as going off the back is Tyler now.
Well, Hamilton tried to nail the gap across there for his teammate Armstrong, but Armstrong, the big leader of the Tour de France here, Phil, knows when he has to do the work himself, and he just leapt across the gap. Christophe Moreau, though, also looking pretty good there, responding to the attack and trying to keep himself up in the position of best-placed Frenchman. There's Tyler Hamilton there, wearing number 4, his job done for the day, and he now will just have to survive and ride at his own pace up to the summit of Courchevel.
Depends how far they push on here as to, or to whether they slow down a little bit. Armstrong smoothly into that group. He's keeping an eye on Marco. I think of all the riders in the race, you know, Paul, he fears Marco.
He's got a lot of respect for Marco Pantani, and that little discussion they had yesterday on the descent was saying, well, I'm the strongest bike rider here. No, you are, but look at this. Jan Ullrich, number 61, the man who is second overall in the standings, is under pressure.
Well, this was not anticipated at all. Ulrich is in trouble here. If the camera swung up, you would find that he's not on the wheels in front. He is in trouble. And Pantani again. I keep on thinking what he said after his first day in the Pyrenees. I am racing for second place, and I think he is.
He certainly is. He knows what he has to do. You know, he's 10 minutes behind in the overall standings, Phil, but he's only 5 minutes behind Jan Ullrich. When Marco Pantani won the Tour de France in the Alps, he was 9 minutes behind Jan Ullrich, and he will be looking to do something pretty special today. Christophe Moreau, also here, is having trouble.
Well, when he won it that time, it was on Les Deux Alpes, the parallel mountain to Alpe d'Huez, which isn't on the itinerary this year. A few cheers from the riders over that, by the way. Now we're looking here at Belocchi's heading the pace, and also Christophe Moreau, but they're going to have to work out something special. I don't think Escartín can help there. The Pirate has a much nicer rhythm going this time. He looks a lot more serious.
Well, he looks a lot more serious, but Armstrong is in a good tactical situation because he's got a teammate with him, and that's Kevin Livingston. Look at the style there, just going off 21. That was Escartín. He is in serious problems on this climb. Great maneuver there, riding forward to set the tempo is 101. Christophe Moreau, they're already catching the group of 4 who are in between. There is Serrano and Bogard. They're going back to the main group.
They're going back, and quickly now, as the Pirate continues to set the pace here, with Armstrong marking him very, very well indeed. Remember, up the road, we still have the main leaders of the Tour. They are not under pressure as far as we know. Our camera's staying with this intriguing battle here now, because Armstrong is isolated. Livingstone has now gone off as well. That's Heras and Virenque trying to get on terms too here. But this is now a battle for the top of Courchevel amongst the head of states of the Tour.
Well, this is the big attack from Marco Pantani, and he's blown away these men. 21 there, in fact, is Escartín. In front of him, 24 was Heras. The slopes of the climb will get steeper as they get closer to the summit, and Marco Pantani looks in very good form, Phil. In the latter part of this Tour de France, he's ridden himself again into condition, and Heras and Virenque now is popping off the back of that group. Marco Pantani and Lance Armstrong are going to go head-to-head on the slopes of Courchevel.
Well, this is amazing here. It looks like it's going to be Armstrong and Pantani as Virenque there disappears from the picture. And look at this now. Armstrong is now taking over from Marco Pantani. But the Pirate is able to hook up, I think. And these two, who seem to have formed some sort of, well, I'm not sure it's a distant friendship, as they seem to finish up together every day in the mountains.
Well, it may well be some form of alliance, because Armstrong is going to need some help from Marco Pantani on the slopes of this climb. Pantani is so far behind Armstrong in the overall standings that he's not a major danger, but Armstrong would certainly need somebody to help him do some of the work on the upper slopes of this climb to try and put more time between himself and Jan Ullrich and every other contender in this Tour de France.
Well, I'm sorry our pictures aren't behaving themselves at the moment. We're high up in the Alps now as the riders make yet another hairpin bend. These are the steepest slopes now as we make our way up through Courchevel to the summit. Lance Armstrong again proving himself to be Well, not in his words, in mine, an above-average climber in the Tour de France this year. That was the greatest climber in the Tour for 5 years, and now he is left to struggle. Here is the white jersey here of Mansebo, also a very good revelation in this Tour, but riding with Ullrich, who has been dropped by these two.
Well, Ulrich's going to have to go away from the Tour de France, Phil, and think seriously about his preparation and the fact if he does want to win the Tour de France again, he's going to have to be a serious bike rider for 12 months of the season. I think this is why there is an entente between Marco Pantani and Lance Armstrong. The two of them now are going to work together and try and put as much time between themselves and Jan Ullrich as possible. For Marco Pantani, it's a plus because he may well find himself pulling himself closer to the second position which he dreams of.
Well, this is Roberto Heras here, and he's been dropped. He tried to go with the move and it didn't work out. Belocchi is bringing up that chase group, and if Belocchi doesn't shake himself today, he might lose that third place overall to the man out front, who we haven't seen for a while now, Bottero.
Well, these two men sharing turns at the front of the climb here of Courchevel. Lance Armstrong wears number 1, Marco Pantani 71, and the reason is they're trying to distance number 61, Jan Ullrich there, the leader of the Telecom squad. He is trying to hold on to second position at the moment in the Tour de France, and he may well find that that second position is slipping off his shoulders in favour of the man in pink, Marco Pantani.
Just a 2-minute time gain for Pantani would move him into 5th place overall in the Tour, and then he'd be right on the tail of Moreau and Belocchi. But remember that Bottero ahead of them all is also looking for a place in Paris right now.
This is the group of Christophe Moreau and Belocchi, and they've now picked up Heras and Virenque. Sitting on the back of the group is Pascal Hervé, and just in front of Hervé in the green is Fernando Escartín. These are the men we expected to see the challenges come from in the climbs, and today they're really being relegated into the second division.
Well, we're looking at, I think, 2 Tours de France here. One for Lance Armstrong and one for the others, because the battles now, as they try to work out their final positions with one big day in the mountains to come after the rest day tomorrow. There's Jan Ullrich. He always seems to falter, yet we must not forget he is still in second place in this Tour, and he will fight all the way. And if he just limits his losses, he'll get them back in the time trial before the end, and he knows it.
Well, his advantage at the moment over the group of Christophe Moreau is around about 25 seconds and 45 seconds back to the Jan Ullrich group. We've got the leader on the road at the moment is Gimenez, Bottero and Nardello, and they're still around about 2 minutes ahead of the Lance Armstrong group.
Here they are, Paul, going through a corridor of noise there with a big crowd. We could only hold them for a little while. The picture's not very good off that camera, but those 3 riders still together and still sitting behind Santiago Bottero. They've got his number now. They just know how good he is. He's no longer a surprise package in this year's Tour. But these two are working together, which is not easy on a big climb. When it's not Pantani at the front, Armstrong takes up the running, and the crowd will be recognising Pantani today for sure.
Well, they'll know who he is. They'll know that he is a magnificent climber. But certainly Lance Armstrong, since his illness, has become a great climber as well, shedding off almost 10 kilograms of weight because of that illness back in 1996. He is now one of the great climbers of the Tour. As you said, Phil, he describes himself as an average climber who occasionally has a good day. Well, I don't think he's had a bad one yet.
He's had a lot of good days this Tour. We're going back here to Moreau and Belocchi here. These are the 2 riders lying 3rd and 4th. What a superb job they've done for Festina so far. But they're under pressure now because behind them there is Heras and Virenque and Pascal Hervé. I'm not too sure where this group is at the moment. I think it's behind that group of Festina riders. And just look, for the first time, I think, since the climb of the Pyrenees, it looks as though Ullrich is really suffering.
Well, you know, you cannot go through what Jan Ullrich goes through and still have consistent form in a 3-week bike race like the Tour de France. His form is up and down during the season. His training is not consistent. His weight is not consistent. He's lost so much weight on a very short notice that I think he's bound to have these very bad days in the Tour de France.
Massive crowd here in Courchevel, but there's still a long way to climb on this mountain as we go through the town and out onto the barren tops of the Col. And now they're seeing the maillot jaune of the Tour de France 2000, Lance Armstrong and the Pirate, the previous winner, make his way up this mountain together. They are trying to close in. They have an awful lot of work to do yet, though, to catch up with Bottero and his mates.
Well, going back to the climb of the Mont Ventoux, Armstrong came up alongside Marco Pantani and he shouted in as much Italian French as he could, vitesse, vitesse, which meant speed, speed. He wanted Marco Pantani to work with him, but on that occasion the pirate claimed that he could not, and he went on to take victory over the summit of the big giant of Provence. But today, Phil, these two riders are working together, but Roberto Heras is making the junction. He's the best man who's recovered from all of these attacks. He is currently about 10 seconds behind, but I think he's got a problem with his gears.
Well, Heras had to come good sooner or later. He's in his first Tour de France as well, but he is a quality bike rider as he comes slowly but surely across to this tandem here of the Italian Marco Pantani and the maillot jaune of Lance Armstrong. And if Heras does get on, then those three will fly away. Back down the road now, Jan Ullrich doing all of the work here, and he's pulling back one or two riders as he comes back up towards the front.
Well, Ulrich now just has to ride his own personal time trial. Francisco Mancebo, the leader of the Young Riders competition in the white there, is quite happy to sit on the wheel of the German for the moment. And you can see that the race situation at the moment is 1 minute and 40 seconds for Armstrong Pantani behind the leading group of three. And a minute further down the road is Jan Ullrich.
It's a lot of time being lost here. Ulrich is in desperate trouble now on the climb of Courchevel, and it's still an awful long way to go. This pain is going to last for at least another 15 minutes.
Well, this is Roberto Heras. He wears number 24, another of the Kelme revelations of the Tour de France. Phil, he has ridden so many of the great tours, and he's always been a high finisher in the overall standings. And today he's looking to improve on his 6th place in the overall standings at the start of the day this morning. And very shortly, and in fact I would say on the road at the moment, he is ahead of Heras and Virenque, and he's clawing his way into 5th, and maybe even better than that.
All changed today on this second day. You know, in 2 days of cycling in the Alps, these boys have pedaled over 13 hours. Absolutely incredible. But it's giving us the final shakedown, or is it? With one more day still to come in the Alps, the day after tomorrow.
Santiago Botero is the leader of the King of the Mountains competition. He's accelerated several times, Phil, on the climb here of Courchevel, but he hasn't managed to get rid of these two very clever professionals, Daniele Nardello, the Italian from Mapei, and Jose Maria Gimenez, and they are still in the slipstream of the flying Colombian. The group on the road behind them now is 3 riders strong. Armstrong wears number 1. He's with Pantani, and on the back of the group is Roberto Heras, the new revelation from Spain.
And back down to the third group now with the 2 Polti boys, Nardello, Hervé rather, and Virenque. Belocchi and Moreau are the Festina riders, and I think it's Escartín tagged on the side. Yes, it is. They are chasing further back down the road. This is the other split now. All of the work having to be done by the rider who once won the Tour de France, has twice finished second. Jan Ullrich. Mancebo will not help him. Look at that now, over a minute back to this group we're looking at from Armstrong.
Well, Armstrong is actually eating into the advantage of the leading group of 3 riders on the road as well, because he's 1 minute 26 behind the Botero, Nardello, Gimenez group on the road. This is them right now, and it seems to me as if these 2 riders are quite content to let the Colombian do all of the pacemaking. He is the man that attacked immediately this climb of Courchevel started, Phil, and he will not get very much friendship for the 2 other riders with him.
He's just got to keep riding, Paul, and not worry about winning the stage, because he could be riding to a top 3 place in the overall classification. Belocchi at this minute in time is having a good day, because with Ulrich behind, Belocchi could be moving up very, very close, if not into second in the Tour.
Well, a few more seconds, the group Armstrong approaches the leading group of 3. And you know, Armstrong was right, Phil, when he said the Tour is far from over. The overall standings is not yet finished, and it won't be finished until the evening of the final time trial, which is 2 days to go. Armstrong is very happy to keep working with Marco Pantani, because I feel the 2 of them here today have formed some form of entente cordiale.
Well, Armstrong is yet to win a stage in this year's Tour de France, but he has been absolutely magnificent this year. I think more emphatic than his riding last year when he won 4 stages. As the leaders now go under the banner here that I think is 5 kilometres to go. It might be 10 actually, but it is 10 kilometres to go. It is such a long climb, this. They've now come away from La Praz and continue to climb. And further back down the slopes, Armstrong doing a lot of the work here now, and he may have to fend off an attack by Il Pirata shortly.
Well, I have a feeling in the back of his mind Armstrong actually wants to win this stage, Phil. He is working at the front of that group more insistently than Marco Pantani. This is the group of Moreau. They're not so far behind Armstrong's group either on the road. Around about 25 seconds their deficit on the yellow jersey group.
Well, that is Christophe Moreau rather, and Bolocki, as this is also Virenque, Escartín and Hervé. They are the riders further down the slope now, but one of the men in serious trouble is Jan Ullrich. Now we're picking off Ochoa here, I think it is, as Armstrong comes through, taking the pirate with him, and Heras, a little bit of trouble here, as he might give Javier Ochoa a bit of a shout to give him a hand back onto the tail.
Well, he just needs to recover a little bit there as Armstrong comes up to 10 kilometers to go. One man I'd forgotten about, Massimiliano Lelli, is still in front of this group on the road. He's 30 seconds behind the leading group of 3, and in fact Heras really pulling himself inside out there, Phil, to get back onto the flying train of the duo Marco Pantani and Lance Armstrong.
Well, I think we're going to see Ellie pretty soon. I can't think he'll hold off the wheels now of Armstrong and Pantani and Heras. A bit further down, this is what we're calling the group Virenque. He was the winner on the only other occasion we've ever come to this finishing line in the history of the Tour de France. And the two Festina boys have just got to get on with the job in hand and try and limit their losses now.
Well, under 10 kilometers to go, the Armstrong-Pantani group was a mere 1 minute behind the leading group of 3 on the road, and they are working well together. Only 2 riders working in the group, Armstrong and Pantani, but they are, for me at the moment, the 2 strongest riders on the mountain passes of the Tour, and they may well pull themselves back into the race. The Devil's trying to prod Jan Ullrich onto something a little bit stronger if he can, but Ullrich is losing big time once again in the mountains.
Well, the Devil, of course, isn't biased, Paul, but in fact, the Devil is in fact a German.
Well, that's probably why he's running up alongside Jan Ullrich there. He would like to see Ullrich climb himself back into the Tour de France and hopefully finish second and keep hold of his second place in the standings. Armstrong, though, Phil, at the front is trying to pull himself back up. 1:06 is the official time gap. It is always getting closer to the leading group of 3.
Well, it is really possible now for Lance Armstrong and Pantani to catch those 3, because the last 5 kilometers of this climb are without doubt the hardest, and as they come up towards the airfield there, a strong man can ride away.
Look at Nardello here. This man is a fantastic bike rider. He's the kind of bike rider who can be competitive in a race like the Tour of Flanders or competitive in a race like the Tour de France. He was attacked at the bottom of this climb by the king of the mountains, Santiago Botero, and immediately he responded and sat right on the wheel of the Colombian. It's all up to the Colombian now, Phil, to try and get rid of Nardello before the summit, but I feel they may well find that this train at the moment comes back to them. It's inside the 1 minute mark now, 58 seconds, but 2:25 back to Ullrich. This is the leading 3 on the road, and all of the work really, Phil, has to be done by the Colombian. And Pantani, he's not shirking his work at the front either. He's very prepared to go forward and insist on setting the tempo.
So Pantani on the climb, followed by Lance Armstrong. Then comes Heras, followed by Ochoa. These guys are catching up with the 3 leaders, because up front, they're only letting Santiago Botero do all of the work. And it's now 49 seconds. They're coming.
They're coming very rapidly indeed, and Marco Pantani today proving that he is back, Phil. After 11 months out of competition, he is now back at the Tour de France. We saw a little bit of that brilliance towards the end of the Giro d'Italia about a month ago, but today, after yesterday's performance, he's proving that he certainly is back as one of the top climbers and working well with Lance Armstrong. The team cars there have been stopped in the gap, so shortly they will see the leading group of 3.
And these are the 2 Festinas. They also have a lot to lose today, because the Pirate is getting up into the places that matter in the Tour de France, so they've got to work flat out. This is the face here of Christophe Moreau, who has now made a bit of a name for himself in this year's Tour de France, but he's going to have to fight.
He's going to have to fight with him in that group is Josiba Belocchi, his own teammate. Well, it's all over for Ochoa, but what a great job he did for the team today. Team Kelme have been out on the attack once again on the mountains. A little further up the road there, you can see a gaggle of motorbike riders, and that is Massimiliano Lelli, who is coming back. He was in the leading group of 8 that went away, and they built up a margin of more than 4 minutes in one stage. Lelli has almost survived, and very shortly he'll see a fellow Italian coming by wearing a pink jersey, and that will be Marco Pantani. Shadowing him is Armstrong.
I don't think he'll be getting on the boat, though, because I think that Ellie here now He's just trying to ride up to the finish. He was struggling a little bit earlier on too. Here comes the pass. He takes a look over. Sees Pantani, there'll be no surprise there. He will see Armstrong, no surprise there. Might be a little surprise to Heras, but it doesn't matter because he's gone now. We're into, I think it's 1850 here, Courchevel. Oh, look at this, a return of Ellie.
Well, that's courage, that is guts, that's what bike riding is all about. He knows he's coming into the flattest part of the course here, and he's accelerated because they're using slightly larger gears. He's got onto the tail of this group of 3 riders, but the gap, Phil, now is just 35 seconds from the 3 leaders. These are the 3 leaders. They're just ahead of the Armstrong group on the road. This is the flattest part of the course. The attack has now come from Jose Maria Gimenez, and Nardello has gone by him, and they've almost caught out the Colombian.
Oh, that is an incredible attack here. Now, what can Botero do about this? This is just a little bit of a shallowing of the slope before it kicks again. And Botero, who's been left to do all of the work because of his reputation built in this race over the last few days, has been left to fry now, and Gimenez has been caught by Nardello, but they're slowing down, so there'll be 3 again soon. Or will they? Because like all good climbers, he's gone again. Now this time, can Nardello answer?
Well, he's kicked again. He's a great bike rider. He looks really good on the machine as well. He sits very high, you can see on the handlebars there. That's why he's not such a great time trialist, but he is a very good mountain climber. Looking back there, here is Nardello. This man has courage, Phil. This man is not a great climber. He's a man who rides on his strength. He's riding himself now onto the back wheel of Jose Maria Gimenez, or is he?
I'm not so sure he can, because it's going to hurt again when the slope goes up in a minute. We drop back here to the 3rd group on the road. The 2 Festina boys are in the town as well. Sitting at the back here, Pascal Hervé, nothing and no reason to race for him at the front now, because he knows the 2 boys in blue have got everything to lose and little to gain right now.
Well, the gap is still there at the front of the bike race between Gimenez and Nardello. He's trying to keep himself in contact here. These 2 guys on the front from Festina are just surviving. You can actually see the difference in their pace and the pace of the group at the front.
Well, they're 2:15 behind the 2 leaders right now, and just over a minute behind Lance Armstrong's group, so they are losing time, whatever you say. Armstrong in a very strong position now. He's going to come out to the Alps today and the rest day tomorrow, feeling extremely pleased with the way things are going. Looking down now at Daniel Nardello, and I'm just wondering what has happened to Gimenez.
Looking down there, in fact, there is Nardello, Phil.
Oh, that's
he,
Nardello,
in fact, has lost the wheel of
yeah.
Jose Maria Gimenez. Gimenez with an advantage of around about 18 seconds over the Italian. But he looks good, he looks fresh, and he's got the gears nicely ticking over at the moment. But be careful, there's a real sting in the tail on this climb. As you tilt up towards the skies to go to the Altiport, this climb is far from over.
Well, Gimenez is on form. He came here with a great reputation. We switch back here, the Italian flag waving at Pantani, but there on the far side of the road now we've got back Ochoa.
That is in fact Botero, the leader of the King of the Mountains competition. This bike race is being turned upside down. Lely now, as the road tilts up once more, Phil, is being caught out. He will just have to survive all the way up to the Altiport. On the back wheel of Marco Pantani is Armstrong, followed by Heras, followed by Botero. There are just 2 riders up the road of the Tour de France at the moment in front of this very select group. That is just Jose Maria Gimenez, followed by Daniele Nardello, and then the Pirate and the yellow jersey.
Too many Kelme riders in this breakaway today, but now the polka dot jersey of Botero has got into the group here. He's lifted his pace just that little bit, leaving just 2 riders in front, and this man here now, 3, he hopes to get Benesto another stage win. He's got good form, 4 wins this year, including the Tour of Catalonia, which was he won in the overall, and he can also ride a good time trial. So Gimenez here could be riding to a nice overall position as well.
He may well have hit them just at the right time, because the gap of Pantani and Armstrong was starting to come down, but in fact he is now holding it at 30 seconds, and it's stretched out just a little more as Pantani kicks once again, Phil.
Well, Pantani is ever so close to a stage win. This is now the steep approach to the finish line. There's plenty of kilometers to go. There's still possibility that these 4 can get across to the leader, but it looks to me as though Gimenez is riding pretty well.
Gimenez is riding very well. He looked very comfortable, but I tell you one thing, Marco Pantani looks pretty comfortable as well. Heras is swinging off the wheel of Marco Pantani. Armstrong takes a look at him, comes alongside, and in fact Armstrong cannot stay on the wheel of the Pirate. It was Heras who let the gap go, and now Marco Pantani has flown.
This time Marco Pantani. Is Lance going to try and counter the move, or is he going to let the Kelme boys take it up? Because I'm not sure they can. They're going to have a go, but Pantani, if he's got the legs now, he's free. It's up to him.
Well, he's looking for the win. He said he wanted to attack in the Alps. He was hoping to try and win the stage into Briançon, but he got caught out there by Santiago Botero, who launched a very long attack on the slopes of the Col d'Izoard. Armstrong now is actually a little in difficulty, I would say, Phil. He's forcing the other two riders in this group to do the chasing behind Marco Pantani. He's taking up third place there and forcing the Colombian to set the pace.
Well, this is amazing here, because there is Daniele Nardello, and the Pirate is now into second place on today's stage, and he's getting inspired by that. He's still got 5 kilometers to go in which to catch Jose Maria Gimenez. It is Italy with their #1 climber versus Spain with their #1 climber.
Well, Armstrong, I don't think, will have been blown off the wheel of Pantani if he'd been in second position. The man who actually let the gap go was number 24 there, Roberto Heras, who is in all kinds of difficulty on this slope. Marco Pantani, Phil, look at the pedaling action there. It's very fluid. He's not missing a beat at all. He's eating into the advantage of the man at the front of the bike race, Jose Maria Gimenez, who, with the last time check we had, still had 30 seconds. But the way Pantani is riding, I think he will eat into that with 5Ks to go. Armstrong now accelerates.
Well, this had to come, but look at the two boys from Kelme. They've still got something left in those legs as Armstrong takes up the pacemaking, sensing the gap was opening there. He's onto the back wheel of Nardello. But I think you're right, Paul. I think this is the one that's hurting Lance just now.
Pantani looks cool. He's looking over his shoulder. He wants to know what's going on behind him. He will know there's only one rider up the road in front of him, and he has now regained, I think, all of the power that he had 12 months ago, which almost took him to a second victory in the Giro d'Italia.
So Marco Pantani heading for the 4 kilometers to go, hunting for this man, Jose Maria Gimenez. He came in with tremendous form to this year's Tour de France. This is his 4th Tour, by the way. His highest finish has been 8th in the race back in 1997.
Well, he's a great bike rider, but he seems to have lost a bit of fluidity there, because Marco Pantani is just 20 seconds behind him. If we pull back, we might see the sign of the Pirate eating into that advantage. And you know, these last kilometers are going to be very long ones, and the last 2 kilometers up here to the finish line here, Phil, I reckon are probably the steepest.
Well, this would be a stage for Pantani to win, to come from the back, to leave the race leader, catch the escaper and take the day. Then people would say Marco Pantani was back to his best.
And if he does win the stage, and he does win it alone, nobody is going to say, oh, you were given that victory by Lance Armstrong, because he is not in any situation at all getting any help from anyone here at the moment. He's the man doing all of the work. He was the man who worked with Armstrong earlier on to try and pull back the breakaways. There's only one man remains from that breakaway. This man here, number 15, Jose Maria Gimenez of Spain.
The upper levels now of the town of Courchevel, as we will leave this town very shortly and go out onto the fields above the town and up towards the Altiport. They're going to cheer a Spaniard on as long as they can, but watch out because the Pirate is coming, and here he is, and he's now only 18 seconds behind.
Well, his position is really good on the machine. Whenever he slows down, he gets out of the saddle just to pull on those bars and find a little bit more power to keep his gears going over. He's actually fairly high geared at the moment, Phil. You can see his legs are starting to buckle just a little bit, but he knows how to do this. He knows he has to pull himself back to this man. The yellow car of the neutral service is being pulled out, and in the same straightaway now, Marco Pantani and Jose Maria Gimenez.
He knows he's coming. He knows he's being chased down by probably the greatest climber riding the current professional circuit, and I think that climber is back on the height of his form. Armstrong knew in the Alps Pantani would be a force to be reckoned with. He was right, and now Pantani is going for the leader of the day. They're separated by 11 minutes on the overall classification. Advantage Pantani, but right now Pantani's not worried about that. He wants the stage.
He wants to win the mountains. He wants to win these mountain top finishes. These are the stages that suit his kind of climbing, Phil, and he's still out of the saddle, sitting down for a short while. This is the climbing style of the super climbers. They get out of the saddle whenever they can just to accelerate a bit. Look at this now, 11 seconds the difference between the 2 first riders on the road.
There is still time because this road is so steep right up to the line. We'll pass shortly through a small tunnel. It will still climb up to the finish. Pantani must know this climb because it now is in his favour.
Well, you know, he's learned how to suffer again. Look at the face on Marco Pantani. He's digging so deep into his reserves, Phil. Every muscle in his body is aching right now, but he knows he's got to keep the tempo going. He knows he has to keep that rhythm and keep himself ticking over, keeping the gears ticking by and just slowly eating into the advantage of the Spaniard.
And the irony of the day is that Pantani, 13 seconds behind Santiago Botero overall, is going to go over him in the overall classification now.
Well, there it is. The junction is about to be made. You can see Gimenez now is a broken man. Pantani will blow straight by him unless Gimenez can find something else. But this is a very steep part of the course, and he digs deep.
A big effort by Gimenez. Don't bother, because I don't think he's going to get on here. I'm not sure what that banner was for. Was it 4 to go?
It will have been 3 kilometers to go for Marco Pantani. Gimenez is digging deep. He's right on the wheel of the Pirate. They're inside 3,000 meters from the finish line now, Phil.
Well, the spectators are telling me it's 3 kilometers that banner was. And again, Pantani launches an attack.
Well, you know, Gimenez is digging deep. This is a slightly lower part of the course. Armstrong now at 24 seconds. Jan Ullrich 2:39 behind, almost 2 minutes behind Armstrong. Pantani hasn't got rid of the Spaniard yet, and it may well be a big battle between the two of them.
Well, it's going to be a near 7-minute lead for Lance Armstrong tonight as he heads up towards the mountain, but Pantani is getting his own back here. This is superb cycling, and I don't know how long Gimenez can keep lifting his pace like this.
Well, he's digging, he's riding on courage now. The gap is slowly increasing, Phil. Meter by meter, Marco Pantani is putting distance between himself and Jose Maria Gimenez, who for a long time must have thought he was going to get the stage victory here. But certainly, barring incident now, it's going to go to this man, number 71, Marco Pantani. Armstrong 25 seconds behind on the road.
So Marco Pantani, he needs a little bit of time, I think, now for a second a fresh breather before he starts again. He knows he's just behind him, but he is settling in, he is recovering, and he will kick again.
Well, Pantani now just has to ride the time trial. He has to keep the pressure on. He has to make sure that there's no return from behind. I think Armstrong is quite happy to ride alongside the Colombian and the Spanish rider from Kelme, because as far as he's concerned, he's putting time between himself and all of the other challengers. Heras now has recovered somewhat, and Armstrong is sitting comfortably there on his wheel, and behind him will be the leader of the King of the Mountains. Well, he should be there somewhere, and in fact he is, Santiago Botero. What a great ride by Nardello, though, Phil. He's still in with a chance.
He's still in with a chance, indeed he is, but I wouldn't count anybody in with a chance of winning the race now, because Marco Pantani has still slight worries about the whereabouts of Gimenez, but the road will still continue to go up here right to the line. This is a tough finish at Courchevel.
Oh, it is awful. It is interminable. When you come into the town of Courchevel, 1850, you think the bike race is almost over, but it's not over. Lance Armstrong is still in contact with the front runners. He's about 25 seconds behind this man, Marco Pantani, but big time losses today for the German, the man who started second place in the overall standings. Jan Ullrich, I think, will finish almost 3 minutes behind Armstrong if he doesn't recover.
Well, here he comes, Marco Pantani, dodging amongst the 1 or 2 chalets at the top of the mountain. He's nearly there now. As he twists and turns, he's shortly going to see the last kilometre, and he's still got the gap.
He's still got the gap, but he's still got a very hard last kilometre to do. He'll be looking now for the banner, Phil, indicating 1,000 metres to go to the finish line. And that last 1,000 metres is a very difficult 1,000 metres here at the summit of Courchevel. Pantani has proved that he is back now, Phil. He has proved that he is one of the great climbers, and nobody will be able to discuss whether or not he was given this victory.
No, not at all. This has been a great ride by Pantani. He is the king of the Alps. He won at Alpe d'Huez twice. He's won at Morzine. He's won at Les Deux Alpes. And now he's going to win here at Courchevel.
Well, this is the man who was the leader of the King of the Mountains competition this morning. He will stay in that position this evening, but he can't stay with Lance Armstrong now as we get closer and closer to the summit of this climb to Courchevel 2000.
There's a limit to everybody's capabilities in the Tour de France, and Santiago Botero has found his today because he's been on the attack all day. He's paying that price now. A rest day for him tomorrow. He'll come out again on the road to Morzine and tackle, no doubt, the Col de Madeleine, which is so hard. Look at this crowd now. We're outside the town of Courchevel now as we race up towards the Altiport, and it still will climb right to the line. It's a vicious end. The crowd, though, are delighted they're seeing this man because they love him so much.
Well, Pantani is riding a great race. I don't know how he goes round those corners so fast, Phil. He's going uphill. Please don't forget that at the moment. And he's touching speeds of around about 30 kilometers an hour. Here he is going to come into the tunnel. Once he goes out of that tunnel, he will see the banner, the red kite indicating just 1,000 meters left to go to the finish line. And certainly for Marco, a great victory. He wasn't too happy about his first victory at the Mont Ventoux, even though it was monumental, because there were questions about whether or not Armstrong gave him that victory. There's no question about this.
No, Armstrong would not have given this victory to him if he could have stayed with him. He's underneath the airport runway now, and he's heading round to the sharp right-hand bend that will ease him up towards the line. The last 600 meters, the Pirate is back in business now, and he's going to have a high place on the GC tonight.
Well, he has proved that he is the king of the Tour de France, Phil, since 1995 at all of the summit finishes. He really has been a real magic man when it comes to flying up hills to the finish of these mountain passes. The great thing about Marco Pantani is his courage. He's dug very deep over the last few days at the Tour de France to find himself once again. And I think the attack of Lance Armstrong on Hautagam made him realize that he can come back as a great climber. And in fact, Armstrong is under the banner now, 1 kilometer to go.
So there's a gap of about 400 meters back to the yellow jersey of Lance Armstrong. It's academic, of course. Armstrong is in fact increasing his lead over virtually everybody in the Tour de France tonight. He's had a great 2 days in the Alps, but this man now is having the glory today. Marco Pantani is heading up towards the finish now on top of Courchevel, and it announces his return to the top of the sport. Look at his face.
Well, he knows he's got it now. A last gasp for air as he comes. Every time he goes round one of these corners, Phil, he's looking for the barriers, and the banners indicating the last 500 meters. This is an unbelievable climb, and there's the first sign for Marco to let him know that he's inside the 500-meter mark. 400 meters to go. This is the last right-hand turn, but in fact, look, that's a tourist. Don't worry about him.
You had me worried for a minute, but in fact, tagging up there is a rider with a number. I've no idea who that rider is, but they're going to pull him off. That is absolutely ridiculous for somebody to try and butt in on the Tour de France. We're looking here at the one man on his own now as he heads up towards the finish here in Courchevel. He loves the Alps. It marks the return. He's also marked the man who came to the Tour in 1995 and got his first victory in the Alps, and that gave us great pleasure. But I think now this one, his fifth in the Alps, will be the one that he will remember most. A massive crowd now as he races to the line on his own. Look at the face ball.
This is unbelievable for Marco Pantani, Phil. There's only around about 100 meters to go. The cars have been taken off, and Marco Pantani will be alone in the final 50 meters.
Now, will he give us a two-arm salute here? Marco isn't going to bother. He's got the line, a wave to the crowd. 5.5 hours for the winner today. Think of the rest. The race now for second place, and it looks like the man who might take second is the man who I think will go on to win the Tour de France. He's had a wonderful journey, but oh, not second. I'm sorry, I forgot all about Gimenez. Gimenez now looking over his shoulder. Will he make it? Yes, he will. He was the man that launched the attack that looked like he'd won the day, but in fact, he's only going to make second because he didn't count on Pantani. So Jose Maria Gimenez suffering now like he's never suffered before, and he's just about going to hang on. This is a really steep final slope here. Up to the second place, up to the line for second place then. Gimenez takes it, and only just in time, because here comes Lance Armstrong. Again, not interested in a place, thinking only of time. Heras gets third, Armstrong fourth. But today, Pantani was first, showing a determination we have rarely seen. This was very special for him. He wins by 41 seconds ahead of Jose Maria Gimenez. Third was Roberto Heras, and then Lance Armstrong came in. Yoshida Bolocki finished 11th at 2 minutes 26, while Jan Ullrich conceded 3 minutes 21 today as he crossed the line in 15th place, having been found lacking on the final mountain. David Millar did much better on this second day in the Alps. He arrived safely, and he has now a much higher morale.
David, a little bit happier today?
Yeah, I just took it as easy as humanly possible. I was feeling a lot better than I did yesterday, and just took it really easy. But we didn't have the car for the last 80k, so I didn't get to eat or drink. So last 2k's there, I just blew up completely because I hardly ate today. A lot happier.
Nice psychological hurdle to get over to reach the second rest day.
Yeah. It was nice. I was really worried about the last 4 days, and it has been a bit excessive the last 2 days, but at least I got through it.
I mean, one more day of climbing after the rest day, but do you feel like you're over the hump now?
I think so, yeah. I mean, that's the hardest bit over, I think. I just, yeah.
A stage win in the Alps to match that in Provence. In all, Marco Pantani has now won 8 mountain stages in the Tour de France. His day, though, almost marred by those who purported to be Tour de France riders. Here's Gary Imlach with more.
Well, actually, Phil, there were quite a few extras trying to get themselves cameo parts in the final kilometre day. The man in the Kelme uniform you saw, he was pretty smartly whipped off the course by the commissaires. But there were 2 rogue riders who did manage to get across the line in the Heras and Virenque group. One of them is in the yellow jersey, he raises his arms as he goes over. And a mate of his was a little bit further back in the polka dot jersey. Now, at first, we just thought they were mad spectators who were trying to turn the race into a participation sport. But as it turns out, there are 2 competing explanations. There's a Basque protest going on here at the race today, and they're claiming responsibility. But a couple of minutes ago, we bumped into Eddie Merckx too, who says that there are some renegade filmmakers about who offered him over £200,000 to join them, put on a kit, and ride up the line with them. I have to say, if I was on Call My Bluff, I'd be edging towards the Basque protest explanation, but if it is the filmmakers, we'll keep an eye out and see what's on the shooting schedule over the next few days.
Amazing. Well, thanks, Gary. Let's have a look then at the overall damage done today. Lance Armstrong has increased his lead to 7 minutes 26 seconds, and Giuseppe Bellocchi is only 2 seconds behind the German Jan Ullrich. Heras is up to 5th, and Pantani continues in the ascension. He is now 6th. A great day in the Tour, and race director Jean-Marie Leblanc paid his respects at the memorial today on the Col de Galibier to the man who started it all in 1903, Henri de Grange. And Henri de Grange, I wonder if he realises what he did start. I'm sure he does, back in 1903. A week in yellow now for Lance Armstrong, a day off, and now he's back in the saddle again, heading on the road to Morzine. Hello and welcome back to our coverage of the Tour de France. We're now on stage 16, the final day in the Alps. The riders continue from Courchevel, where they spent their second rest day yesterday, coming here to Morzine. And the big climber is back, Marco Pantani. He gave a hint when he narrowly won at Mont Ventoux. He was a clear winner at Courchevel. And history says, you know, he should win here in Morzine, because when we last came in 1997, he put in a fantastic descent of the Col de Madeleine. That's on the itinerary again today, and came into Morzine alone. He went on to finish in a podium position in Paris. But there is a war of words between Lance Armstrong, the convincing leader of this race, and Marco Pantani. Pantani was very unimpressed when Armstrong went away on the Col d'Izoard and then seemed to wait for them all as they went over the top.
Avevo un po' di rabbia dentro perché mi sembrava un'azione un po' esuberante, e anche se il leader bisogna sempre avere rispetto.
In hindsight, after the last few days, in his actions, his words are very disappointing to me, because I thought he had more class than that.
Ieri mi era rimasta un po' sullo stomaco quando stavo tirando, eravamo rimasti lui e lui mi è partito.
I've been disappointed by his attitude and his declarations, let's say.
Overall, Lance Armstrong is now over 7 minutes ahead of Jan Ullrich, who is only in turn 2 seconds ahead of Giuseppe Bellocchi. David Millar lies in 67th position. And at the start this morning, a very sad start indeed, as all of the riders and the Tour de France organisation take a minute's silence here in respect of a 12-year-old boy who died on Sunday from his injuries received after he was hit by a publicity car travelling ahead of the Tour de France on Thursday. How very, very sad. So in the end, 137 riders now continuing on the road through the Alps, 196 kilometres. This is the sprinter Albertville. McEwen are getting the better of Eric Zabel, but this rider also deciding, I'm afraid, his tour is over. The abandon of David Plaza.
Well, you know, this is going to be a pretty hard stage with 4 big mountain passes finishing over the Col de Madeleine. But Marco Pantani, Phil, he's decided today he wants to blow this race to pieces as he goes over the first climb of the day, the Col de Cézy in first place. He's joined on the second climb of the day by Escartín and Hervé, and they're putting a serious amount of pressure on the rest of the race.
Well, this is a long breakaway by Marco Pantani, and quite for what reason other than divilment, which is what Claudio Chiappucci used to do. There's no other reason to have attacked, and he's joined now by Pascal Hervé. It's going to force a reaction sooner or later from the yellow jersey, Lance Armstrong.
Well, there's the hi-hat of Texas there coming out to support Lance Armstrong. But you know, this attack of Marco Pantani today, Phil, has put an awful lot of pressure on the main field, and it has forced the likes of Lance Armstrong to chase for the whole of all of these mountain passes. We're now very close to the summit of the Col de la Colombière, 131 kilometers covered, and still 50 kilometers to go until the final climb of the day of the Jouplan.
Pantani, Escartín at last putting in a big appearance at the front on the mountains in this race for Kelme, who are leading the team race, and behind Pascal Hervé without his captain Richard Virenque yet again. The crowd is enormous here. This race to the Alps has brought out the people in their tens of thousands, and the Col de la Colombière, you know, is not the hardest climb of the day. That's the last one, the Col de Jouplan.
That is a very difficult climb, but racing as hard as they have done over all of these three climbs has made it difficult for everyone in the bike race. The only thing I can think behind the attack of Marco Pantani today, Phil, is because of this little discussion going on between himself and Lance Armstrong. He's gone out there, he doesn't care about Lance Armstrong, he's going to try and blow this race to pieces, and if one of the victims is Lance Armstrong, so well be it.
Well, he's timed at 1 minute and 40 seconds behind these three right now. And continually looking around is Pascal Hervé. It's almost as if he expects Richard Virenque to come up and join him.
Well, he's a tough bike rider. He's proving to be almost as strong as Richard Virenque at the moment. He's always been on the attack, and in the mountains we've seen him so many times looking over his shoulder. But they're not really working too hard with Marco Pantani, who's never really managed to have an advantage of more than 1 minute and 40 seconds over the yellow jersey group of Lance Armstrong, which is now down to a very select group of men.
Heading up towards the top of the Col de la Colombière, and then they are facing 65 kilometers to the finish, but it's not an easy 65. They drop down to the bottom of the valley at Taninges, and then they climb out of it again to Morzine. And over the top, Marco Pantani, doing what he does best, goes over the mountain first. It's a third climb of the day rather, that he has topped in first place. We're going back here now to look at the Armstrong group, and they are a little way behind yet because they're not at the top of the climb by any means. Richard Virenque dicing with the new champion of the mountains in this tour, Santiago Botero.
Well, I think it's a little bit of a weak one because, you know, he's trying to get himself minor points here over these mountain passes, and the two Kelme riders who are first and second in the standings are riding all over him. First place over the front here for the man who was the king of the mountains on 5 separate occasions, but in fact that first place is from the group, and there are 3 riders already going over the summit of this mountain pass.
And the Armstrong group has closed in a little bit. They were 111 down, 114. They've come back to just over the minute, so they've had a good steady climb there now. Good fast descent too off the Col de la Colombière, heading down to Châtillon-sur-Cluse. This beautiful area here around Morzine.
Well, Phil, Richard Virenque is trying to get off the front on the descent here of the Col de la Colombière. He's a very good descender. He's left the group of Lance Armstrong behind, and he may well be the sort of rider who can make the junction here on the descent.
Well, he's looking to bridge a 59-second gap here to the men who are setting up the pace at the moment. Pantani's had a great day out, attacked on the Col de Cézanne. Over the top of the Col des Adavis, he was winning there too. And the peloton with Lance Armstrong at that point was 115 down. But look at this now, attack and counter-attack, and it looks like Pantani's teammates are trying to hit him.
Well, this is the Telecom riders on the front. That's Guerini there, and Udo Bolt's trying to pull it all back. And I can't really figure out just now, Phil, why they are chasing so hard. They're not too worried about Richard Virenque, who at the moment has been joined by Santiago Botero.
Getting my pinks mixed up there, Paul. But yes, the Telecom boys are outnumbering Lance Armstrong and his team right now, as this group is still concentrating on holding itself together, at least until it gets across the valleys through Taninges and then onto the Col de Jouplan.
Well, this is why they were chasing. Look at this. Christophe Moreau, in fact, has come across the gap on the descent. 4 leaders now at the front of the bike race: Escartín, Pantani, Moreau and Hervé.
Well, we're heading down towards the start of the day's big climb here now as we cross the town of Les Clous. And I must say now, it's the coming together of all of them here.
Well, the whole of this main group is coming back together, and it was really because Christophe Moreau got across the gap there. We had this huge reaction coming from Team Telecom. They're all back together. Lance Armstrong is also comfortably in that group at the moment. And you know, Phil, it's all going to go down to one big showdown on the slopes of the Col de la Jouplan.
Well, there's Pantani swinging off. He's been out front for so long today, and now all of a sudden he sees this rather large group come around him. There's a tap on his butt there by the guy who's alongside him, one of his teammates, just to say keep in, Marco. But now we're going to race out of this town, and this is the Châtillon, and then it's on then to the climb of the Jouplan. Udo Bolt's licking his lips, but I wouldn't think in trepidation more than expectation.
Well, they're trying to set it up. These three riders have slipped clear on the slopes before we get to the final climb of the day. Kivilev is in there, so is Didier Roux. And on the slopes of the climb, Phil, as soon as we've hit this climb, it is absolutely exploded. There are bike riders all over the place.
Well, they're getting it together, but this, you know, Paul, you've ridden the Jouplan. This is the most deceptive mountain. You don't feel the height like you do in the Grand Alps, but it is such a hard climb.
It is horrendous. It's made more difficult, really, because of the fact that at the bottom there's an incredible gradient. On the front, this is Roberto Heras putting down the hammer. He's alongside Lance Armstrong at the moment. Richard Virenque is there as well. Armstrong looks very concentrated right now. On the back of the group there in the pink is Jan Ullrich. These, Phil, are the heads of state of the world of international cycling, and they're going to fight it out on this very difficult ascent.
And the man no longer here is the man who caused all the problems today since the Col de Saisy, and that is Marco Pantani. He is in a little bit of trouble, and so too is Jan Ullrich.
Well, Ulrich has cracked again. This climb a little bit too steep for him. He's going to have to try and ride at his own tempo. He started the day a long way behind Lance Armstrong. In fact, he was almost 7 minutes and 26 seconds behind. The Tour de France almost over for the big German who's won this race before, but he must still try and stay in contact, Phil, if he wants to take second place up to Paris. Armstrong looking very good right now. Heras is the man setting the pace, and Richard Virenque just sitting back, waiting for an opportunity to attack. But it's on the early slopes of this climb, Phil, that you can see how narrow the road is, but it is very steep in these corners.
Well, this is really something we never expected to see, but Jan Ullrich, who hasn't prepared for this tour, perhaps as he might have done, is now finding that his body is not lasting the full 3 weeks, and this second leg in the mountains is proving that little bit too hard. Look at the gap now to the yellow jersey.
It is so difficult for Jan Ullrich. He really needs to look at his preparation, Phil, because, you know, you cannot keep consistent form when you come in and out of form the way Jan Ullrich is doing, and you cannot keep consistent form when you put on weight and lose it as rapidly he is doing as well.
Further up the climb now, Roberto Conti, I think it is here. He's still on the attack as he continues. No, it's Guido Trentin just here now.
Well, this looks like one of the riders with him as well as one of the riders from AG2R, and that may well be Kivilev. A great ride by him to get up here at the moment. These two riders had a slight advantage at the bottom of the climb, but that's about to get reeled in at the moment. You know, Heras has gone, Phil, and Armstrong has not responded just yet.
He's just sitting there, keeping a tempo going, riding shoulder to shoulder with a man who has 5 times won the King of the Mountains this year. He thought it would have been a little bit of a preliminary to have got 6 and equal Lucien Van Impe of Belgium and Federico Bahamontes of Spain. Not been the case, because the Kelme team have had a wonderful tour, and now they're using Roberto Heras. This, surprisingly, is Heras's first Tour de France, but he's had superb results in Spain and in Italy.
Well, 3 times he's finished inside the top 5 at the Tour of Spain. He's a great bike rider. He doesn't look under pressure at all at the moment now as he rides away from Armstrong and Virenque. He started the day, Phil, in 5th place in the overall standings, and a good ride today may well put him very close to a podium position in Paris. Armstrong now content to let Richard Virenque do all of the pacemaking, and the man who he's doing serious damage to, in fact, he was doing serious damage to, because look at this, Jan Ullrich has recovered. He is coming back to the tail of the yellow jersey of Lance Armstrong. This man today from Germany, Phil, is riding on courage.
What we have seen in this year's Tour de France is all of the big names who normally appear to float around the Tour de France. They have all been put under pressure at some time or other. Ulrich suffered on the road to Hautecam. He's clearly suffering on the Jouplan today, but he has pedalled right back to the side of Armstrong. And it shows you, no matter how great a champion you are, it hurts just as much as if you're not.
Well, that's what it's all about. Bike riding is you have to suffer, you have to learn to suffer. And I have to say, I think today Jan Ullrich has dug very deep into his reserves. Looking now at Trentin, he's gone off the frontier, the Italian rider on the Vinny Calderillo team. He wears 189. He is now currently the leader on the road. He's left that man from Kazakhstan behind, Kivilev, and he now looks very comfortable, Phil, but there's a huge battle on the road behind.
And there's a huge crowd on the Jules. I don't know if they've all run across from the top of the Col de la Colombière, but that's hardly possible. But the Guido Trentin is trying to do something here, but Roberto Heras is trying to do something even better. Heras is riding superbly now.
He's catching here Didier Roos. Roos took an advantage on the bottom road there to come onto the Col de Juplin with an advantage of around about 1 minute. He's being left behind now. There are just two riders on the road in front of this man, Roberto Heras. One is Andrei Kivilev, and he'll pretty soon be on his tail, and then that will leave just one rider in front of him, and that will be Guido Trentin.
So we're seeing here Roberto Heras. He probably sees this as his last chance in his first Tour de France to leave a lasting impression on the race, and he's trying to win this, and he's got to get time on the climb of the Juplin. This is Kivilev he's bringing back now. He's just picking them off one by one. There were three riders clear at the start of the climb. There's only one of them left, and he's right in the far side of our camera lens there, and that is Guido Trentin. He's just around the corner, and once Heras gets up to him, he'll be the first rider on the road.
Well, what a great tour this has been for the Kelme team. They've already got two stage victories under their belt. Armstrong now is maybe going to try and put an end to that. Ullrich has come forward, and he is accelerating, but the man who blew up the race today, Marco Pantani, is slipping away from the front.
And look at this, it looks as though Lance Armstrong is now in a little bit of trouble here. Look at that face. This is not the face of the man who has ridden the Tour de France so far. At the bottom of the climb, Armstrong, to me, looked as though he was going to eat the field alive. He doesn't look that way anymore.
Well, that was a double take there. You could just see Jan Ullrich looking over. He is probably somewhat surprised at this performance by Lance Armstrong, because earlier down the slopes he was left behind by the flying Texan, and now the tables have turned. Armstrong now is in difficulty, Phil. This is the first time we've seen any chink in his armour since the start of the Tour de France, and we're going to have to see whether or not Jan Ullrich has got any more power in his legs. I think, in fact, Armstrong has absolutely hit the wall.
Well, you know, every top cyclist has a bad day. It's up to the other riders to find out when and hit him when it hurts most. And it looks as though Ullrich is very surprised by the fact he has distanced Armstrong, because Ullrich himself was in trouble at the start of the climb. He appeared to be talking to Virenque, and he was certainly looking at him.
I don't think they can believe what is happening. Everybody thought this man was superhuman. Everybody thought that he was a man who was unbeatable. But right now, Phil, he is proving that he is immortal like any of us. You know, if you have a bad day in the mountains, you can lose many, many minutes. And Armstrong, for the moment, is going to have to relax, have to be calm, and have to try and make sure he doesn't lose too much time. Roberto Heras now has been joined by Richard Virenque, and in fact the man that they have both left behind is Jan Ullrich.
Well, we never saw the move by Virenque. He just kept the pace going. Ullrich, as far as we know, is still ahead of Lance Armstrong. But now these two are clear here, and they have seen each one of the riders alongside them systematically destroyed. So Virenque and Heras are really as free as birds now. Once over the top of the Juplin, it's a full-on descent right down to the finishing line in Morzine.
Look at this, the time difference between Ullrich and Armstrong, Phil, is almost 1 minute at the moment. Ullrich himself is very close to the two leaders, Virenque and the man from Kelme, Heras. 28 seconds is the difference between them almost at the summit, but Armstrong is losing big time today. He must not panic. He has to remember at the start of the day he was 7.5 minutes clear.
Well, Virenque goes and takes out the points for the King of the Mountains, and then immediately asks Heras to come through and work. I don't think he's got much of a hope of that right now. Virenque himself is a very, very good descender. And now look at this, Paul. He's over in third place, and he's taking a bike here. He is asking for a bike. Now, is he wanting a new bike? This, in fact, has his race number on, so he must have changed earlier.
Well, there must have been a special plan here for these guys to have a special light bike for a climb here up to the summit of Juplin. There is Lance Armstrong with Conti, with Trentin, with Botero and Christophe Moreau. But this must be, Phil, one of the worst days he's had so far in the Tour de France. Just getting onto the back there as well, the Seiko rider Daniel Atienza.
Well, he's a fair way down, you know. Virenque, Heras, Ullrich went over 28 seconds behind the two leaders, but then stopped. Now look at the clock here, and Armstrong comes over around about 2:10, Yeah, so 2:10, 2:11 behind, 2:13 if they split time them over the top. That is an awful big gap to make up now. For the first time in this year's Tour, at least since Armstrong got the yellow jersey on, he is losing time to his main rival.
His main rival meaning Jan Ullrich. Ullrich now trying to pull himself back up to these two and the possibility of getting himself a stage victory. But you know, Heras and Virenque has got the bit between the teeth right now. He's working well with Heras. They now are trying to get the stage victory. For Heras, he's trying to pull himself up high in the overall rankings. A good finish by him today, Phil, could pull him up into third place overall, and that is something that he would certainly be dreaming about after a 5th and 2/3 at the Tour of Spain.
Well, the early descent of the Joux plan is a very, very helter-skelter style, switchbacks all the way. After that, it becomes a very fast descent right down into Morzine. Really, you descend till the last 500 meters of the stage today, and then you race into the main street of this beautiful alpine town. I think it's lucky for the race today, Paul, they haven't added in the climb of Avoriaz just outside Morzine.
Well, it's very lucky for Lance Armstrong, because this is a bad day for him. If they did climb up to Avoriaz, he would be losing even more time than he is just now. Currently, he's around about 1.5 minutes behind Jan Ullrich and 2.5 minutes behind these two leaders. The leaders are Roberto Heras, number 24 from Kelme, and Heras and Virenque from France on the Polti squad. Virenque, though, Phil, you can see urgently coming to the front. He's a great descender, and this man, not one of the best descenders in the world. Even though he is a much heavier man, he doesn't really seem to negotiate the corners or the descents as well as he should.
You can gain or lose so much time going down a steep hill. It takes a very special type of man who has no nerves to go down these mountains. They're not worried about oncoming traffic, at least. The roads are totally closed. Although there was a nasty accident on this mountain a few years back now, when a spectator on a bike was riding up and he was hit by a rider at the back coming down, and that rider is no longer with us.
No, in fact, that was a very sad affair. He was in a coma for many, many days, and when he came out of the coma, he ended up being almost a vegetable. And a few years ago, in fact, he committed suicide.
But happier days now in the Tour de France. Well, not for Robert Heras, because we've missed it. Our camera was cutting away. We are just on the run into the finish here. That was Heras on the ground at around the 2 kilometer point. Now look at the delay here.
Well, I don't think anybody could have expected that. He came into the corner. That is an unbelievably bad line. Straight into the corner there, straight into the barriers. And he looks as if he's not hurt himself too much, Phil, but you can see the front wheel of that machine is absolutely useless. He has to get a new bike, but this is going to give the chance to Heras and Virenque, who is well inside the last kilometer now, fighting up this last incline. He is looking to try and get himself a stage victory here at the Tour de France, and it will be a sweet one for the Frenchman.
Well, it certainly will be. He's been looking for this. He's a popular man amongst the public here in France. He won at Courchevel last time, where Pantani won. Pantani won here last time, and now he's done it. And he gets the victory in 5.5 hours and salutes the crowd. So he's won at Lausanne, Courchevel in the Pyrenees. He's now added Morzine to Courchevel in the Alps. And this man here gaining time today on Lance Armstrong. He too, sadly for Heras, has picked him up.
Well, he's picked up Heras, and this man is flying now. He's pulling himself closer and closer to Armstrong. He will have had good morale at seeing Armstrong suffer. He comes across the line 24 seconds behind Virenque. Right on his tail is Heras, but the important thing now, Phil, is the time to the Lance Armstrong group. Belocchi, Hervé and Escartín have passed Armstrong as well.
So Lance has had one of those terrible days you hope never comes, but usually does sooner or later. This is Escartín. He's had a pretty good journey through the Alps, which will now be behind them tomorrow, as he sprints away for 4th place. He had a stage win in the race last year. Nothing come his way yet this year. And the sensation from Spain, Belocchi over the line in 5th place, along with Pascal Hervé, and the clock counts on.
Well, that's the important thing for Armstrong. He mustn't panic. He must try and make sure he limits his losses. He started the day, Phil, with a huge margin. He's here right now. There is Botero with him, Christophe Moreau as well. The man in front is Trentin, the Italian rider on Vinny Calderillo. It's already 1.5 minutes, and he hasn't got to the finishing line just yet.
Well, he's still looking at around about a half minute, I think, because it's a fairway into Courchevel here. Armstrong knows that he's going to reduce his overall lead tonight. We don't know yet by about how much, but Botero has hung on to the back of these, and he has had another terrific day of racing for Kelme. He'll keep his lead in that King of the Mountains as well. Trentin has also had an excellent day out. Look at the clock. It's going to hit 2 minutes, I think. As they cross the line, it does. Armstrong will be glad that day is over.
Well, he's going to have to go away from here and try and recuperate, but the day certainly belongs to Richard Virenque. This man has been chasing a stage victory in the Tour de France for an awful long time, and you can see the pleasure in his face as he comes across the line.
So there is the stage result. Virenque ahead of Ullrich, Heras, Escartín, Belocchi. Armstrong finishing 8th and 2:01 down. That's a big loss for Armstrong. It's about 1.5 minutes plus on Jan Ullrich today. Lance Armstrong really did have a tough time, didn't he? Looking further down here, Christophe Moreau finished 9th in that same group. Marco Pantani in the end losing 13 minutes and 44 seconds, and that was a lot of time for him to lose. He started the attacking too early, it seems. But the man who really had a bad ride today and struggled was Lance Armstrong.
That was, without a doubt, the worst day I've ever had on a bike. We all know what it's, I think most of us know what it's like when you run out of energy and run out of food and you, in English we say you bonk. I had a lot of emotions. I was hungry, I was lightheaded, I was nervous, I was scared. Things were really bad. I could have lost the Tour de France today. I don't know what Pantani is thinking, but he's just a little shit starter, so that didn't surprise me. I mean, that was actually very good for us. All the guys who had ambitions to win the stage, that was a perfect move for us. I mean, let him sit out there, have a couple teams control the race. They never had more than a minute and a half, so it's perfect.
Well, a day Lance Armstrong will certainly remember. Let's have a look at the overall situation. There are changes tonight. Lance Armstrong has his lead cut to 5 minutes 37 seconds over Jan Ullrich, and Josipa Belocchi holds on to 3rd place by just 5 seconds. Christophe Moreau falls to 6th, while Marco Pantani comes in and drops down to 14th overall. David Millar is still holding a good place on his way to Paris. But just take a look at this crash again by Roberto Heras. Inside 2 kilometers to go, overshoots the bend and hits the barriers. He's now in 4th place in the Tour, and I wonder if the 5 seconds he has lost here will cost him a podium place in Paris. On the podium tonight, though, Lance Armstrong. A 7th yellow jersey for him, but what a day of racing it really was. So the race now ready to say goodbye to France, temporarily of course, and head to Lausanne. Well, Lance Armstrong is certainly still the leader of the Tour de France, but what a shock he got on that last climb in the Alps yesterday when he found his rivals had better legs than he did. I'm sure he will enjoy today's stage better. Hello and welcome now. We're in Switzerland on the shores here of Lac Léman in Lausanne. The ride is in fact starting on the other side of this lake at Evian-les-Bains and coming the long way through France and into Switzerland. Well, the Alps are now behind us, but what 3 memorable days they gave us. Highs and the lows of the Tour de France, and there's still 5 more days to go. Just a reminder of the overall situation. Lance Armstrong, after 72 hours in the saddle, has built a 5.5 minute lead over Jan Ullrich. A great battle over 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th places in this race. We're now on the road to Lausanne, 131 kilometres. The Telecom team, Paul, chasing down 3 riders if they can. They're 38 seconds back.
They are. It's Christophe Morzine, Massimiliano Lelli and Marco Velo. Velo going on the attack after Marco Pantani did not start the stage this morning. They're complaining of being hampered by a diarrhea attack over the night.
Well, the mountains are behind him, so he probably gets a fright when he sees a flat road. But now these riders here are onto a finishing circuit, and in the last 500 metres, and Decker has gone away here, and he's gone away in a big effort with Mario Urtz to try and steal the day. He's gambling now because the field are coming back at a tremendous rate.
Well, they're being led out there by Vinokourov on the front there for the man from Zabel. You know, Zabel is right up there in fourth position. They may have left it just a little bit too late, Phil. Zabel is going to try and come out of the main field, but it's going to be Ertz who leads the sprint out into the final straight with Decker right on his wheel.
Well, you know, I think they've upset Eric Zabel again. Here he comes in the green jersey, making a terrific run, but Decker is going to have a desperate run to the line, and Decker has still got some speed in those legs. Ertz is swamped, Decker is not, and that is a triple Decker, Paul, because he gets the victory.
Unbelievable, great move by him coming into the town with about 2 kilometers to go. He slipped off the front of the pack, and it looked very much as if it was going to be a win for Eric Zabel. Not today.
No, and he's beaten Zabel, and Freddy Rodriguez got third there, and Francois Simon in fourth place. But what a result there. 3 stage wins now for Eric Decker, and this, don't forget, is in his 7th Tour de France. This is how he's done it, with his mouth wide open again. Mario Ertz was almost there for second place, and he got completely swamped on the line and finished only 6th. That's Francois Simon on the left of our picture. But Eric Decker does not believe the way this tour has gone for him. He won at Villeneuve-sur-Lot, he won at Revel, and now he's won in Switzerland on the side of Lac Le Mans. And there is the full result there. Mario Ertz, I say, getting washed away to 6th place. And he won't believe that in the last, the last 10 or 15 metres of the stage. So there'll be no change overall at all, as we're now in Switzerland. Looking further down, Lance Armstrong was 35th. And there is the man on the podium, and well, as you can imagine, it's been a tough day, but it worked out again.
I started the stage at to escape with a group, and then see what happened at the finish, but nobody really got away until I controlled the race the second half. And then we came together at the last climb, and in the descent I attacked with Mario Ertz.
Yeah, and you won again for the 3rd time.
Yeah, 7 years in a row you try and try, then suddenly 3 times in a row. It's amazing.
Yes, a great finish, but it made no changes to the overall classification, and Lance Armstrong keeps his big lead over Jan Ullrich with only 4 days to go. And so to the race leader, here he is, meeting first of all Hein Verbruggen, the president of the International Cycling Union, and then Juan Antonio Samaranch, the president of the International Olympic Committee. He meets them as leader of the Tour de France for an 8th day. So the Tour de France now will leave Switzerland and head into Germany tomorrow on stage 18, a ride of 246 kilometers, and the weather we expect will still be very hot. And it was here where Eric Decker stood for a 3rd time in this year's Tour de France, and you know there's still time for him to come up for a 4th occasion. Well, yesterday the riders were in Switzerland. Today they are racing a long ride of almost 250 kilometers to here in Freiburg in Germany. At least there's a strong wind blowing, and it is behind them. Yesterday in Switzerland, though, it was a beautiful day. The sun shone, it was hot temperatures, the riders enjoyed themselves. We were left with many impressions. Field now making the way away from Lac Le Mans and Lausanne, and we're bound for Germany at 5 minutes to 11, and it is a glorious day now. All the poor weather of the Tour forgotten, and the breakaway has now got 2 survivors, Paul.
Inside 3 kilometers to go. The man on the front is Salvatore Comesso. The man in second position, Alexander Vinokourov from Team Telecom. He may be from Kazakhstan, but the pressure of being on the top German team, Phil, today is on his shoulders. He was a member of a 5-man breakaway group with Jackie Durand, Jens Voigt and Jean-Cyril Robin. At the moment, they are round about a minute behind these 2 leaders.
Well, it often happens at the end of a Tour de France. Vinokourov, 21st this morning, 40 minutes and 10 seconds down, but at one stage they were 27.5 minutes ahead, and they're still holding on to a massive lead of around about 17 or 18 minutes.
Well, if Vinokourov wants to win this one, Phil, he's going to have to launch an attack because Salvatore Comesso is a very good sprinter. There it is.
There it is, and you're absolutely right, because he'll play into the hands of Salvatore Comesso. Not a big winner is young Comesso. He got his first win in the Tour of the Cape a couple of years ago, but he's been the national champion, and he's also won a stage of the Tour de France here at Albi last year.
Well, nobody was going to catch him out. He knew that attack had to come, and it was the biggest chance for Vinokourov. You know, Vinokourov is not a great sprinter, Phil, but finishing here in Freiburg, it is in Germany, it's on Telekom soil, and they certainly had to have a man in the breakaway to date. I feel a bit sorry, though, for Jens Voigt, the German rider, the only German rider to make that leading group of 5, because currently he's trailing at around about 1 minute and 15 seconds.
Yeah, it's split up at 25 kilometres to go when these two got clear. The other three are still on their own and well clear of the field, but they're not going to catch these boys up now. A massive crowd here, Paul. One of the biggest we've seen throughout the whole tour, and this is a popular area of Germany for riding your bike too.
This is going to be a strange sprint here. These two guys are almost getting into a track-like position. They're following each other across the road. Comesso currently in first position. This is almost like watching the sprint at the Olympic Games. It is so much pressure on the shoulder of these two bike riders here. Comesso in first position. He's holding first position there, keeping close up against the pavement there, Phil, to make sure that if there is going to be another attack, it has to come on the far side.
Well, that's clever riding by Comesso. Just look at the crowd here as we now come towards the finishing line. And you know, they are not interested in gaining time, just winning the stage. It's 50,000 French francs for the stage winner here in the Tour de France. That's 5,000 English pounds and quite a few more $1,000 too. And Vinokourov, as they come up to the 1 kilometre to go bridge, is not going to come by this man now. There's an attack here. Of course, it had to come from Jackie Durand, but we've gone back down the road by more than a minute.
Well, Jackie Durand is trying to get himself third place on the road. He, in fact, is the man who started this split that's given the advantage to these two guys. This is just like watching a track sprint now, Phil, and are they going to stop?
Well, I just hope our motorcycle cameraman can balance the bike as well, because, in fact, Comesso there almost did a track stand as he's now waiting and trying to attract Alexander Vinokourov to come and make his move. Such an important time for young Alexander. It will be his first stage win in the Tour de France, and he's going to make it count, I think, because he knows really on a straight sprint he doesn't have the legs.
Well, he doesn't have the legs. He may well try and catch out Comesso. Next time Comesso looks forward, just watch out. You can see him starting to wind it up a little bit now.
Yes, indeed, and as he kicks now, this is all or nothing, and Comesso now concentrating on that sprint. This man is a very fast sprinter, but he's good at other things as well on the bike, is Salvatore Comesso. But in the end, he's made it a formality, much to the disgust of Alexander Vinokourov, who felt the pressure of his telecom team there today, because, of course, they were hoping Eric Zabel would have come in. And Jackie Durand has stayed away. He was the rider who started the attack today after only 4 kilometres, and he was joined by the other 4. And so our great escaper, who was last in the Tour de France last year, but that wasn't last through a lack of aggression, because he is always on the attack on this type of a stage. And he's got clear, and he's going to come home in third place. He'll be disappointed with that, because when these escapes he creates do succeed, he likes to win them.
He certainly does. There's going to be big pressure on the sprint, though, for fourth place, because that's going to go down to Jens Voigt, the only German rider to make this 5-man breakaway, and he's being attacked on the line here by Jean-Cyril Robin of France.
And Voigt on the right, who has been the most aggressive leader on that competition on a number of occasions at this last 3 weeks, especially in the opening week of the Tour. It's time trial day in the Tour de France, and the top 2 riders want to win. On the left, Lance Armstrong is heading for Paris without winning a stage. Realistically, this is his last chance. He's up against the world time trial champion Jan Ullrich, and the German lives virtually on the course and wants to win for his fans. They're here in their thousands to cheer him on, and they expect him to deliver. Lance Armstrong knows the odds are in Ulrich's favour.
I think he's a favourite. I think he's a favorite. I mean, it's his home, and you should see the people out there supporting him. So I think he'll have, obviously, big morale to ride well at home.
Overall, Lance Armstrong leads the Tour de France over Ullrich by 5 minutes, and that in any event is a big buffer. However, there is a great battle for the 3rd place in Paris, and Christophe Moreau is hoping to attain that. Our David Millar is 64th. And yes, David Millar may be more than 2 hours behind in the Tour de France. Let's not forget, though, that the time trial is his speciality. He won Stage 1 time trial at Futuroscope and held the race lead for 3 days. He's also finishing this tour feeling very, very strong. Hello and welcome now to Stage 19, yes, the time trial. The riders coming away individually from Germany across the Rhine to here in Mulhouse. And it's a beautiful day for it as well. Paul Sherman was out early this morning checking out the time trial route, and after that he monitored David Millar's progress.
David Millar's preparation for the time trial started in earnest 1 hour before his starting time. He got onto the rollers to warm up and get himself ready for what was going to be a very important 58.5 kilometer test. He was certainly the center of attention because after winning the Stage 1 time trial, everybody knows the name David Millar now, and they even wanted a few press interviews during his warm-up on the rollers. 10 minutes to go, he emerges from the team caravan and makes his way to the starting house. He's wearing long-sleeved skin suit this morning to make sure he is as aerodynamic as possible for this very important rendezvous. He already looks extremely concentrated. At 1:30 local time, David Millar rolled down the starting ramp and faced 58.5 kilometers of this individual time test. When he reached the first time check, though, it was good news. Best time, 23:35. There were huge crowds all out on the course, as they were yesterday on the roads of Germany. And in fact, David Millar was inspired by the crowds because he even had time to catch the man who started 2 minutes in front of him, Fabio Sacchi of Polti. The next man in David's sights, 25 kilometers to go, was Marcus Seberg, the champion of Switzerland. He started the day 4 minutes ahead of Millar and would soon be left trailing in his wake. But the time trial is a long and lonely effort, and you can see by the position here of David Millar, he is going to turn out to be one of the top time trialists in the world. Approaching the second checkpoint of the day, 44 kilometers covered and still the fastest time, 51 minutes and 22 seconds. Inside the final kilometer, David knew he had the beating of Gilles Meunier. The time of 1:09:53 was the time he needed to cross the line inside. Coming down the finishing straight, he was still very low over the handlebars, and he pushed himself all the way to the line in that very stylish aerodynamic position of his. As he crossed the line, the best time of the day for David Millar, 1:08:57, and immediately after the finish, Gary Imlach was waiting to talk to him.
David, another cracking time trial ride, the only difference being 3,200 kilometers after the first one.
Yeah, it felt a bit different. It was a lot harder, that one. But no, I'm pretty happy with it there.
Suffocating heat out there.
I didn't notice, actually. I wasn't hot. I didn't get hot. Kind of used to it now.
You've never raced a time trial like that this late into a race. How was it?
Hard. Long. It was actually, I'd tell you the truth, it did go by quite quickly, but it was daunting sitting on the start ramp knowing I had 58 Ks in front of me. It's not my thing, but no, it went well. It was a good experience.
Well, it went very well. You're in like the last time with the best time, and I'll ask you the same question. Do you think it'll stand up?
I don't think so, no. I think Ullrich and Lance will beat that, and no, I'm happy with it.
Well, you must be happy with it, especially when you look back to the injury and you know, you couldn't see too far ahead of you. Now you can see the Champs-Élysées.
Yeah, and it's looking beautiful. I can't wait.
Right.
Well, David, just 48 hours to go. When David Millar finished, it was the best time, 1 hour, 8 minutes and 57 seconds, a ride of almost 51 kilometers an hour. But it lasted for only 14 minutes. And then the former world champion, Laurent Jalabert, came thundering down the home straight and then crossed the line with the best time, 1:08:48, pushing Millar into second place. Gilles Meunier currently third, and he's 1 minute and 5 seconds slower than Jalabert, and Servais Knaven, the early leader, down to fourth. Well, this is the arrival now of Tyler Hamilton. Let me remind you, the leading rider is Laurent Jalabert, 1:08:48. Robert Millar is second, but Hamilton is now running in first place here. This could be the start of a great day out for US Postal. This has been an outstanding ride by Hamilton, because this will be, by the time he gets there, the third fastest time ever seen in a time trial over this distance in the Tour de France, because it will be the best time. He is still fighting his bike up towards the line. He's got plenty of time, and he's in 1:08:02 and 51.592 kilometers an hour.
Well, that was a pretty good reconnaissance ride. It's a fairly featureless course. Is there much you can tell, Lance?
Well, I think I put in some pretty good split times, so he'll have split times every 3 kilometers off me. So, I think it'll be a good gauge for him.
You're the 3rd fastest in history. What do you think he might be able to do?
I think he's going to have a great ride today. He's really motivated, and yeah, he's my favorite for the day.
5 seconds to go for Jan Ullrich on the line now. He gets the countdown. The world champion is underway. He knows that Tyler Hamilton has set the best time at the other end of the course of 1 hour, 8 minutes and 2 seconds with the 3rd fastest average speed ever recorded in a time trial. This man is a proud man. He's racing on home territory, at least for the first few minutes, Paul.
And he is wearing the Arc-en-Ciel jersey as well. That will boost his morale. That will give him the morale to show everybody else in the bike race that he is the world champion at this discipline.
So Lance now looking very cool and collected, actually, and very calm for a race leader. Doesn't show the pressures of the day, does he? Because we know that he wants to win this time trial, despite what he says. He's talked often enough of this is about winning the Tour de France, not winning stages. But believe me, he wants to win today.
He certainly does. The last few minutes preparation, Phil, as he gets ready for the countdown. The time now is counting down 4 seconds.
So Hamilton, his teammate, is top of the leaderboard as Lance Armstrong departs now, knowing under normal conditions he can beat Hamilton. The question everybody's asking, can he beat Jan Ullrich?
Well, Armstrong, Phil, is out on course. He starts very rapidly indeed. You know, everybody in this Tour de France has been amazed by his cadence of pedaling. He pedals very fast, over 100 RPM, but he still has the power to keep that big machine of his going forward.
Well, the yellow jersey is underway now, and I'm sure he'll be trying to get a victory. He hasn't won a stage yet. So let's go to Gary Imlach to tell us more about Lance Armstrong.
You know, there have only been 4 Tours de France since the war, won by a rider who didn't actually win a stage. And Lance Armstrong won't thank me for pointing it out, but this is actually the 10th anniversary of the last time it happened. And it was another American rider too, Greg LeMond. 1990 was LeMond's last Tour win, and for most of the race he was more interested in chipping away at the huge lead Claudio Chiappucci had taken in an early breakaway than actually backing a stage win. In fact, he only took the yellow jersey the day before Paris in the final time trial, where he finished behind Eric Breukink. Like Armstrong, LeMond was the defending champion, and after winning the way he had the year before, he probably felt no pressure ever to win a stage again. 89, of course, being the year he took the most dramatic stage in Tour history, the final time trial into Paris, to beat Laurent Fignon by 8 seconds. The other stageless winners of the Tour were all one-offs. Roger Walkowiak in 1956, Gastone Nencini in 1960, and Lucien Aymar in 66.
Now, Aymar won the Tour before he ever won a stage. That didn't come until the following year. But Roger Walkowiak won the race without ever winning a stage in his entire career. Not the greatest claim to Tour fame, but it obviously pales into insignificance next to the achievement of actually winning the overall. And that's the tack that Lance Armstrong has been taking this year. Although in his own mind, of course, he already had a stage win and gave it away. And not just any stage either, but the most celebrated of the entire race, the climb up Mont Ventoux, where he pulled to one side at the finish and let Marco Pantani across first. And the closer he gets to not getting onto a winner's podium, except the ultimate one in Paris on Sunday, the more that seems to be nagging at him.
Yeah, I would be disappointed, especially based on a certain uphill finish a few days ago. Yeah, I would be disappointed. But I still plan on trying to win a stage.
And it's not going to be the bunch sprint on the Champs-Élysées, so today is it for Lance. Otherwise, he's going to bump the membership of the Stageless Winners Society up to 5.
And we'll know soon if he can break that duck. We are waiting for news now of Armstrong. He must be very close to the first check at 20.5 kilometres. He's just gone under it, and we couldn't see what the clock said, so we will have to wait a few seconds till they tell us. But Armstrong is now through the 20-kilometre check.
The time he needs to beat is 22 minutes and 19 seconds. He looks good out on the course, but in a few moments the judges will be able to tell us whether or not he's close to the German.
And look at this, he's gone through 5 seconds ahead of Ulrich and 47 ahead of Moreau. This is a head-to-head battle now, Paul.
It will be a head-to-head battle all the way down to the finish line in Mulhouse. Looking at the shape of Armstrong there, Phil, he is very aerodynamic, his arms right out in front of him, cutting into the wind.
Well, this rider did so well in the first time trial, Belocchi. He finished 12th, and his teammate Moreau was only 30th. And yet here we are in the last time trial. Moreau seems to be riding that little bit better. You can see the strapping on his right wrist there, as Paul said at the start. He's suffering a little bit from tendonitis. Still looking as though he's not faltering at all, and he's very close now to going through the check at 44 kilometres.
Look at this. In fact, it's not very long since Botero went through there and we got his time check coming through, but the fastest time is going to be produced by Christophe Moreau. The time to beat still that of Tyler Hamilton, 50:45, but you can see that already Moreau is well inside of that.
Now Armstrong was 5 seconds quicker at the first check. Now what will it be at the second check? It looks as though, to me, it has improved enormously. He's in there already.
Well, he has improved. Don't forget, at the start of the stage, this man started 3 minutes behind Jan Ullrich, and 3 minutes has not gone by yet since we've just seen the German. Look at the face on him. He's totally concentrated in this effort at the moment. He's still in that very low tuck position, and he's looking very strong. There's nothing wrong with his cadence at all, and he's going to go through, Phil, with the fastest time. Look at that.
It certainly is. The clock is still counting, but 48:48 was Jan Ullrich's time. 5 seconds the difference. He's pulled back more time here, that's for sure, as he goes through the chicanes here and lines up for the timekeeper's board. Armstrong is still going to be running very close to Ullrich, even so, but the 5 second gap, I think, will have gone out just a little bit more. Lance Armstrong is finding a match in Ullrich today, but 48:23 is the new best time, so that makes it 25 seconds he's up now.
25 seconds. He's on his schedule at the moment. You can see the face on him. Don't forget, last year in the final time trial, he actually faded a little bit over the last 5 or 6 kilometers. He's gone out on a very vicious schedule here, Phil, to keep his pace high, to keep his speed high, but there's confirmation. 25 seconds ahead of Ullrich and 1 minute 40 ahead of Christophe Moreau. This is the man who is trying to make himself third place. He wears 102. Joseba Belocchi has certainly, Phil, been a great revelation at this year's Tour de France.
He's got to sprint and not stop sprinting, this man, because look behind him. The world champion is coming on to him for 3 minutes. Belocchi tries to sprint to stay clear, but look at the solidarity of the man in white. He is just coming at him, his face a picture of pain. On the line they cross together. 1:8:27, so I guess it's about 1:5:27 for Jan Ullrich.
It's being confirmed to us right now as 1:05:26, and Armstrong is going to have to push himself to try and rival that.
Well, there we are now, inside 1 kilometre to the end of this time trial in the Tour de France. He has got 1 minute and 36 seconds, Paul, to ride that last kilometre. Surely he can do that.
He should be able to do it. He should have been ticking off these kilometres at around about 1 minute and 10 seconds for each one. But he needs to sprint for the line now. The time to beat is that of Ulrich's 1:05:26. Look at his face. He's completely concentrated. He's taking a few risks coming into the corners. He knows the time that must be beaten. He's going to try, Phil. He's going to push it all the way to the line. The computer's just gone down right now, but I can tell you Armstrong's time on the road right now is 1:04:30.
Well, what a performance by Lance Armstrong this has been now as he drives up to the line. I think he'll just about get in, but he's aiming at the time of 1:05:27 of Jan Ullrich, who's home. We are watching probably the second fastest time trial in the history of the Tour de France. Armstrong sprinting the long straight here in Mulhouse. This will confirm him as winner of the Tour de France as well, and as winner of a stage of the time trial this year. Armstrong rocks and rolls his way home here now as he comes up to the line. His time is 1:05:01. He wins the time trial, and look at the speed, 53.9 kilometers an hour. That is the second fastest time trial ever seen. Well, Lance Armstrong is no stranger to winning Tour time trials, but this one was special. The Tour winner-elect has won a stage, and with some panache. First to meet Lance Armstrong after his stunning performance, his wife Kristin. So to the result, Armstrong wins at a near record average speed, beating world time trial champion Jan Ullrich by 25 seconds and Christophe Moreau by 2 minutes 12. Joseba Belocchi recovered to finish 5th. David Millar was 7th, and I would think very content with his ride today. A stage winner's podium tonight for Lance Armstrong, and he can now walk tall to Paris on Sunday. This was important to him.
I needed to win a stage, and I felt good today. I mean, I felt good this morning going out riding, just warming up, and so I wanted to do a good one. I thought it was important that, like last year, I thought it was important that the yellow jersey do a good ride, do a respectable ride, and show the, maybe show the race and show the world that he is the strongest man.
but it was a big challenge with Jan Ullrich. Did you get any time checks out on the course?
It was a big challenge. I knew that we were in Jan's backyard, and you could feel that. I mean, it was like you know, every one of his friends and family members and the whole town was out there cheering for him. But I got a lot of time checks all along the way. Johan had we've been using radios in the time trials now, so I get time checks probably every 5 or 10 kilometers, and then there was the race time check. So I knew where I was. And I felt good. I mean, in the end, I was dying, but I think we all did.
Paul Show in there talking with a contented Lance Armstrong, who now leads Ulrich by 6 minutes and 2 seconds. Vinokourov keeps 3rd place, and Christophe Moreau, his teammate, comes up to 4th. Well, it's an awful long way, and indeed, one day before the big finish in Paris, this is the longest stage of the race, Paul, 254 kilometres, Belfort to Troyes. Robin McEwen starting off with good sprinting legs, getting in there ahead of Jackie Durand, but we're at 63 kilometres here, and this is a great shame for Michael Bogart.
Well, this is great sadness for him. Apparently there was a contact with a car that was trying to overtake the main field, but for Michael Bogart, just one day to go in the Tour de France, and he's out. But coming into the town of Troyes, all of the field was together, Phil, and what a remarkable sprint finish it's going to be.
So the Ulrich train, well, it's not Ulrich now because we're on the flats, it's the Zabel train, I suppose, for the rider in the green jersey, about 9 men down at the moment as we come into Troyes here, another famous cycling venue for the Tour de France. And now a flat finish. Can Alex Zabel at last get a stage win? He's got today and tomorrow to do it, and we're inside the last kilometre.
Well, you can see a lot of orange and red jerseys there from Team Pulte there looking after Jeroen Blijlevens. Robbie McEwen is right in there as well at the moment, but the control on the front is still Farm Freaks. This is Servais Knaven on the front, keeping the pressure on. Right up there is Heras and Virenque as well, trying to help out his own team sprinter.
And the big lead out are coming. Vinokourov is also leading out now. Then he's going to move over and allow Fanini to try and bring Zabel up to the front. This has been a good lead out by Telecom. As Telecom's Vinokourov gets off the wheel now, and Magnus Bagsted's in the mix today as well. So too on the left there is Robbie McEwen. Now a brilliant lead out by Fanini here. He's still got his charge in his slipstream. Fanini moves over now, and just look at the speed of Zabel as McEwen comes and challenges him. McEwen takes him on. Blijlevens is coming as well, but this is shoulder to shoulder here, and he gets it. That is his first win since 1997 in Pau.
Unbelievable, what a timed sprint, perfectly set up by his teammates there. Fanini, he's a great addition to the Telecom squad. Just look at this, Robbie McEwen coming up the outside. They're all full on here, but today, Phil, nobody was going to take it away from Erik Zabel. He's been chasing this win for an awful long time, and no one can now say that the green jersey doesn't know how to win stages anymore.
Well, he'll be delighted with that one, because at last the green jersey is on course now for a record 5th in a row, and he gets a win, and that's like Lance Armstrong yesterday. He wants to win in a competition as well. Congratulations all round from the team helpers, and Zabel looking quite incredulous here. At last he's got a win ahead of the top boys, and he's been looking better and better and better. And the congratulations too from his top lead-out man there, Fanini. Zabel wins ahead of Robbie McEwen. Jeroen Blijlevens at last, we might say, has got himself out the depth of the pack and looks pretty good up there in 3rd place. The rest of the boys all in the main field, and no change at all overall. But this man here, who is winning the sprint now in the green jersey, he's going to feel very pleased.
For me, personally, a big moment, this stage win. I think it's the sweetest.
I really wanted to win, but just didn't have it.
Last chance saloon tomorrow then.
It's a bit like last year. I was second in Bordeaux and I thought I was going to win there. Bit of the same situation. I'm feeling good. I know I'm going good enough. Just have to be able to pull it off.
In the last years, I have also fun in a race when I was just second, but I'm still in a bunch to fight, and I'm a little bit like an adrenaline junkie, and I go in the sprints and I have fun there, and that's most important thing for me.
A winner too, Erik Zabel, a lovely man, 15 second places before he finally won a stage again. Paris is now with us, and the Eiffel Tower, part of the scenery today. We start at the base of it, and then we race just down the road and back into the streets of the Champs-Élysées. This wonderful city here, for only the second time in race history, the race will stay completely in the environs of Paris. We will see all of the famous sights of this city as the riders now assemble, ready for the final stage. 128 survivors of the 180 who signed in Futuroscope. And one rider who has been on the Champs-Élysées on 5 occasions in his 7 starts is Paul Sherwin. He knows how they will feel today.
It's been a very difficult 3 weeks for every bike rider, but it's relief once they get onto the cobblestones of the Champs-Élysées. I know what's going through their minds right now because I raced the Tour de France on 7 occasions and finished here on 5 of those. It's a special day for everyone in the Tour de France, but if you're wearing one of the leaders' jerseys, it means an awful lot more. It will be a very special day for the former East German Erik Zabel. Born in Berlin 30 years ago and a former student of the East German Institute of Sport, he began his quest 5 years ago to become the most consistent rider at the Tour de France and will ride onto the Champs-Élysées in green, as he has done every summer since 1996. As he speeds up and down the Champs-Élysées, witnessed by the previous record holder Sean Kelly of Ireland and his own family, he will know that the name Zabel will now be in cycling's history books forever. There will be more emotion for Santiago Botero, who hails from Colombia's most violent city, Medellin. Colombia is a land of climbers, and the King of the Mountains title will make him famous in his home country. He will now join the great climber Lucho Herrera as the only other Colombian to win this prestigious title. His aggressive style and climbing ability also earned him a brilliant solo victory over the Col de Madeleine and Interbriançon. He will surely be looked at next year for a top 3 finish. The reintroduction of the white jersey for the best young rider revealed the 24-year-old Spaniard Francisco Mancebo to the world. Winning this title does not guarantee stardom, although Greg LeMond did win it and go on to win the Tour de France. Mancebo showed his class in the mountains and will return to the Tour de France next year with bigger ambitions, a bigger contract and more responsibility in the team.
And now these 4 riders, Apollonio, Voigt, Millar and Agneluto, are going to be caught by the field, and they're almost in sight of home.
Well, it was a good move, Phil. It looked as if they were going to pull it off, but you know, the sprinters have got themselves organised for this last sprint on the Champs-Élysées, and it could well make it 2 in a row for Erik Zabel, because his sprinting form, I think, Phil, is back.
What a way to go out of the Tour with a record 5th green jersey with a weekend of wins when he's tried for so long to get them. Well, this is the breakaway. Voigt riding on this last day as aggressively as he has done ever since the race started. But now it looks as though this attack is not going to work. Good show by David Millar too. Shows to us all that this man does have a great future as a Tour rider.
Well, he started off with the yellow jersey, wore it for 3 days, and I have to admit, Phil, I did think he was going to walk away from the Tour after a very dramatic crash on the stage of the Mont Ventoux, but now he's back in the pack and he is going to race on the Champs-Élysées, and that is after 3 weeks of bike racing. The Bonjour team trying to move forward now to organise the sprint there. That's Francois Simon very close to the front, but watch out for the green jersey. There he is, Erik Zabel in around about 7th position.
Down past the Rue de Tuileries, heading now towards the Place de la Concorde. A massive crowd here, been well entertained by the riders in the streets of Paris now for 3 hours or so. The Bonjour team has tried and tried and tried to get a stage win. So far, none. Perhaps it'll all change right now. But watch out for the Farmfleet's team. They're trying to get Robbie McEwen up here.
Well, Robbie McEwen's the man who got the stage victory last year here on the Champs-Élysées. He was 2nd yesterday, and morale must certainly be very high. The Banesto riders are moving up on the left-hand side there, and everybody now wants a last crack at the sprint here in the Champs-Élysées. This is a great place to win a bike race, Phil. It has to be the most beautiful finish in the world. There's a few arms and legs coming off the bike there. That was Magnus Baxter. It looks to me as if he was getting a sling off Jens Voigt. The green jersey of Zabel still in the front.
So this is the turn right now. It's a long way up to the line. In fact, you can't afford to go too quickly. Max van Heeswijk, the Mappé boy, bringing through Fred Rodriguez. Rodriguez in front of Stefano Zanini. They all are 3 men, and then they've got the green jersey who's gritting his teeth there to Zabel. And now Zanini comes over to the right here. Max slows it down, and Zanini is coming up to the line, and it looks as though Zabel is too late on the line. Stefano Zanini ahead of Erik Zabel and Roman Weinsteins. The Tour is over, and the winner is Lance Armstrong.
What a great ride by Armstrong. He didn't have to worry too much about the sprint on the final day, but Phil, that was a very good maneuver by the Mappe squad. They had it all sorted out. There's Freddie Rodriguez, Max van Heeswijk. The three of them were first, fourth and fifth. But this man has dreamed about winning on the Champs-Élysées for a couple of years now. He finished second behind his own teammates Tom Steels when Steels took out the final stage victory here, and this is what he wanted. He's got to say thanks to the team.
Man, look at the faces on the sprinters here. Veenstein's close, but never quite close enough throughout this tour on the flat stages. I've lost count of his thirds, fourths and fifths. This man, though, has got a win now, a winning ahead of Eric Zabel, Roman Veenstein's. Freddie Rodriguez also had a marvellous Tour de France. Max van Heeswijk in his first Tour too, up there in fifth today. They'll all be pretty happy with the result. Now they can all go out and have a good night out on the Champs-Élysées for the first time in more than 3 weeks of racing. But there's only one champion. His name is Lance Armstrong. He wears the yellow jersey at the end of his second successive Tour de France, and here he is now with Paul Sherwin.
What's the difference between this year and last year on the Champs-Élysées?
Last year I didn't know what it meant to win the Tour de France. I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what it would do to me as an athlete, what it would do to me as a person. I was confused. I was surprised, and it took me about a year to figure it out. And now I figured it out, and so I knew what it was that I was riding in here with on my back, and I knew what the significance of the jersey. So fantastic.
Is it good enough to want to come back?
I will definitely come back. I will definitely be back next year. I don't know how many more years, but definitely be back next year.
Well, that's good news for us, but I'm not sure about the rest of the riders in the Tour. The big difference this year, it's a family affair for the Armstrongs now. Kristin there, his wife, and new baby Luke, already a winner on the podium in the Tour de France. Of the other competitions, the green jersey won for a 5th time in a row. That's a record by Eric Zabel. The best young rider, Francisco Mancebo, and the king of the mountains, a Colombian this year, Santiago Botero. This has been a very memorable Tour de France. I hope you've enjoyed it. For Gary Imlach and Paul Sherwin, I'm Phil Liggett saying so long for now. Well, I hope you enjoyed yet another cycling video from World Cycling Productions as much as we've enjoyed bringing it to you. Now, what many of you probably don't know is that I'm also the international editor of Cycle Sport, a fully international magazine which brings you all of the up-to-date news in the cycling world. It brings you profiles and reports of the top bike races and also stories of the men that make the news. And it keeps you up to date too with the technical innovations in our sport. I think we produced the magazine using some of the world's best writers. I know we certainly have one of the world's best photographers in Graham Watson. If you love cycling, you should see this book, and here's how you go about getting a subscription. Subscribe to Cycle Sport and we'll send you a free WCP video. Just call the number listed or visit our website cyclesportmag.com for a complete listing of the free videos available and for other special offers too. Don't miss this chance. I'm sure you'll love the magazine and I look forward to visiting you each month through my column. Colnago is one of the perennial favourites of riders on the pro peloton. Why? Because Colnago bikes win races. Over history, Colnago bikes have been ridden to victory in the Giro d'Italia, in the Tour of Flanders, and a record-breaking 5 times in Paris-Roubaix. In fact, they've won the last 5 out of 6 editions of this great event. Now that's one amazing bike. World Cycling Productions is the exclusive catalogue distributor of Colnago frames in America. To see more about these magnificent frames, simply call the numbers on the screen for a World Cycling Productions catalogue or visit our website at www.worldcycling.com. WCP is one of the largest Colnago dealers in North America, with selection and pricing to ensure that you can own one of these magnificent bikes.